So here we've got some text in a text file. At the moment it's called new one. We are going to save that as a web page. And if I choose file and save as, what I will get, apart from not knowing where I'm saving it, it's in my document somewhere. It's not a lot of free space. There we go. Right, web pages. Sorry about that. Right, okay, so we've got different types of files. This is enormously important to the exam, is knowing what the file extensions, this one is .txt, what the different file extensions do, and there are loads of them. And if I just open it up, we can see that we've got .txt, .as, .mx. They're not always 3 letters. Sometimes they're 4, sometimes they're 2. They always do different things. So this is the one that I want, is hypertext markup language file. Now there's different ones. There's HTML, hypertext markup language. There's HTM, which is the old version, and then a secure one. SHTML, SHTM, XHTM, and so on. There are lots and lots of different file extensions that we can use that will be recognized as a web page. Now, the point of them is that if we were in our file manager and we double clicked on a file with one of these extensions, it would know which program it needed to open that file in. And if we've got an editor such as Dreamweaver or Internet Explorer's version of web design, if we double clicked on one of these files, it may open in that file. In other words, you can associate these files with a particular application, but only one. We tend not to associate these with anything other than a browser, but then again we can choose different browsers. We can choose Internet Explorer, Safari, Google, and when we double click on one of these files in the File Explorer, that will open up in the browser that we've chosen. So I'm going to save this as a HTML file, and I'm going to give it a name. Now we can name it anything. We can even have a different file extension. It really doesn't matter with web pages. What you do, they will work. However, there is a sort of standard that you have to go by, and this is the standard. The first page, or the home page in a web site, is always going to be called index. Now I say always, that is a lie, depending on the company you're working for. They may call it home page or something else, but I will show you the settings later when we look at server work. And I think, let's say 90% of the world, their home page is called index. After that, it really doesn't matter what you call the page. It's always best not to use capitalization. Always keep it to lowercase letters. There's a reason for that. On Windows machines, it doesn't really matter what the case is. It will always display the page. However, if you are on a Linux, or you've written your web pages on a Linux or something else, a Mac or something, then the case is important and you have to match it exactly. And again, we try not to put spaces in file names. That causes loads of problems with browsers. So I'm going to call my first page index.html. I'm going to click save. When we're on a server, I will show you this one special page and what it does. So you have to wait till that comes along. So there you go. I've actually written a web page. It's called index.html, and it just contains all of this text. There's nothing special about it. So if I do go to my server, there we go, index, and it's telling me that it's going to open up in the Chrome. Chrome is the accepted or associated program that opens when I double click one of these. Notice that we don't have the .html. Instead, in modern file management systems, they just sort of tell you what kind of document it is. You don't get to see the file extension. That's quite poor, but you can sort of change that. We could probably change that later. We're on details. We need to change the view type, which I don't sort of have here at the moment, but it can be changed. Folder and search options, view. So this is a setting. Again, this is what you really need to know for your computer science, is that we have lots of settings. At the moment, this one says don't show hidden files, folders. So I want to see everything. So I'm going to click on show hidden files and folders. And what I want to do is always show the file extension. So here it says hide extensions for known file types. If I take that tick out of that box there, now what I'm doing is administering the system. This is part of utilities software that run in the background. So this is part of your operating system, and it is a utility software. So I'm not hiding the extensions. So if I apply that and click OK, then we see that the file is called index.html. I don't think you're allowed to do that on the school computers. I would be surprised if you could. But on your home computers, you can change this so that you can always see the file extensions. So I'm going to double click on it, and it should open up in Google Chrome. There we go. And if you noticed in Notepad, when we were playing around, what I'm going to do is shrink the window a little bit. There we go. When we were in Notepad, we were writing single lines of text, and you know, because we pressed enter, that very last character there is a new line character. New line, new line, new line, new line. Well, if you view anything in a browser, it ignores new lines. It ignores everything, basically. And so what happens is that all of your work starts in the very top left-hand corner and moves to the right and then down. Now, we haven't written enough for it to start going down. We finished here at SVG. But if I sort of minimize the browser, let's see if I can do that. There we go. You can already see that SVG's moved over to the left-hand side. As I shrink the browser down, then the text appears to go down, and there's a minimum that you can actually shrink the browser down to. So it ignores new lines. All it does when it reads a text file, it starts in the top left and works to the bottom right, and that's it. That's all it does. At the top, what I want you to notice in the address bar. Now, this address bar is going to be really, really important, particularly later on. We are a client. We are not a server, and as such, there is no HTTP protocol. Okay, now HTTP protocol means hypertext transfer protocol. That means it is transferring from a computer a text file which is in the hypertext format, which is what we're about to do. In other words, we're about to put tags around all of our code to format the page, and that is exactly what it's asking for when we've got HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol. Now, the bit that follows is telling you where it is, but hypertext transfer protocol will want to talk on the web to a server, and we don't have a server set up at the moment. So it uses the file system. So the protocol is the file system on the C drive, in users, me, in my documents, in web pages, index.html. So that is the path from the start of the computer. So if I go to the computer, the first one is C, so it says a file in C. So if I click on C, That takes me to there. Then it's telling me to go to the users folder. So I find the users folder, I go in there. Then it tells me to go into the Keith folder, which I go in there. Then it tells me to go in the documents folder, which I go in now. The documents folder in Windows, annoyingly, is called My Documents on the screen, but documents documents as just part of the file or the path name. Then it tells me to go into a folder called Web Pages, which is there, and it says look for the file index.html, which is there, and then load that in. So that is a path. That's how to use it. So we've got our text displaying in the browser, and that is all what a web page will do. It will just display text. In the next video, we're going to amend that text.